our next guest, Herb Roitblat, who has written a book recently called Algorithms Are Not Enough. And he argues in that book, amongst other things, this notion of generalized intelligence, which is, a really important kind of concept. And Herb is a data scientist. He's a thought leader. He has over 40 years of experience in related fields. Was an educator early on. So Herb, help us unpack all this.
First thing is caveat emptor. Be careful what you get out of ChatGPT or any of these other models. They are language models. That's exactly and only what they are. That is, they've gone through practically everything written that's available on the World Wide Web and learned the patterns of language usage on all of those pages. That's all they know. So if somebody if somebody has written nonsense, that nonsense finds its way into the model. They have no concept of the world except the description of the world. So they're working not just on a shadow on the back of the cave, they're working on a description of the shadow on the back of the cave.
Wow.
So you got to be a bit careful. Now, what Bob's saying about use it as a tool and learn from it, that's entirely possible. I think he's right about it being a knee-jerk reaction, but we already have ethical rules that don't turn in somebody else's work as your own. And if somebody is turning in ChatGPT as evidence of their own work, that's right there a sufficient ethical violation that would prohibit it. They don't have to do something special. Now, there are always some students who feel it's more important to get through it and go out and do whatever they want to do rather than actually learn something. But most of the students will behave, I think, ethically, and they need help understanding what that ethics is. Now, there are lots of websites that collect the gaffes that ChatGPT makes. There are lots of failures, but the biggest problem with it is that it can't be right or wrong because it has no notion of anything except that these are language patterns that I have extracted from the material that I've read.
Mm-hmm. And for our audience who may not know some of the nuts and bolts of ChatGPT, can you just describe the dimensions, or like Bob used the word parameters?
Yeah. ChatGPT was trained on about 500 million tokens, where a token is essentially a word. It's a part of a word, but it's, for our purposes, essentially a word. And then it reads those in groups of up to 2048 words at one time, figures out how words are related to one another in very complex patterns, and then uses those patterns to probabilistically produce text given the text that it already has. So typically the way you use it is you put in a prompt to any of the large language models. You put in a prompt, and then it produces some text in response to that prompt. That text conforms with the abstract model that it has derived from all the language that it's read. And it is reminiscent to me of some work that Claude Shannon wrote about in 1948 in his papers on information theory, that he said, if you look at the probabilities of one word following another, you get some approximation in English. If you take 2 words and how that predicts a third word, you get a better approximation. You take 4 words and you get a better approximation. Now we're doing 2048 words and a little bit more flexibility in the patterns that we're learning, but that's what the computer learns. So again, if somebody writes nonsense, it has the capability of learning nonsense, and it has no representation of the world, only of what people have said about it.